teacher go to school?
And here's your name.
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason moron.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink guy? Is this what pink guy is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
Well, I ain't spending any time on it.
Well, g'day, patrons, and welcome to yet another Black Label episode. Here we are. We are on the eve of Christmas. Not quite the eve. We're on Christmas Eve as we record this. And we wanted to bring you the final. Is this the final show for the year, or are we going to do one next week, Joe? Yeah, so we want to wish all our patrons a very, very happy Christmas with friends and family. Hope you have a wonderful time. We've got a fair bit to bring to you this week in this week's Black Label edition, including, Joel, the fact that cookers may not be all that worried about kids.
No, they really fucking aren't. Now, I'm going to preface this with, I am more worried about CBCO's Gab's position than children, but I've made it very clear that I actually don't really care that much about kids at all. So, if you could...
I see you're pro-pedophilia.
No, I'm pro craft beer. Kids are secondary. They can't even drink it.
Pro-child sexual exploitation.
Well, I mean,
but you're on the fence. You're on the fence about it.
I am. The only thing I hate more than child sex exploitation material is people who try to stop it. They're the worst. Anyway, we'll get to that. So yeah, CBCO, need your vote for Gabs, blah, blah, blah. It's a premium. I'm not putting much effort into this beer plug, but the link will be in the show notes. If you click on this link, it will register as us, and we look really good, and they'll like us and shower me with praise and love, and you will get nothing from it except for the knowledge that you helped me somehow, I think. All right,
he's
cool.
wearing their T-shirt.
I am, actually.
Patrons, he's wearing their T-shirt. He's been bought.
They send me swag
for the price of a few beers and a T-shirt.
To be fair, they make a really nice T-shirt. I mean, it's actual good cotton, so I very much appreciate that. Anyway, I'm going to get on with this because I've written a nice big script, and I tell you what, this has been fucking tickling my gooch. So it appears that, as you say, conservatives have decided they love Elon Musk more than they hate pedophiles, which has been utterly puzzling. They have been roundly condemning the initiation of civil proceedings against X Corp, formerly known as Twitter. You are all aware of this situation. If you're not, well, good. I mean, stay that way. And the reason why the eSafety Commissioner is cracking down and initiating civil proceedings on X Corp is, in summary, because there's a bit too much kiddie porn on the platform and they can't quite explain what they're going to do about it.
Yeah, it's child sexual exploitation material.
And
now,
grooming.
I've never come across it on Twitter.
No.
But there were, I believe, the eSafety Commissioner said that material of this nature that was spotted internally by Twitter prior to Musk taking over, they would sort of sort out 90+% of that. And now it's down into the 70s since Musk took over.
Because they fired everyone responsible. And we will talk about that, but it is important to sort of front load with the fact that this situation is of Musk's making. And the fact that he said that eradicating child porn from the platform is the number one priority obviously wasn't the number one priority. Number one priority was sucking up to Tucker Carlson and giving Alex Jones his account back. Fuck me. The idea that somehow eradicating kiddie porn was number one priority either means he is hilariously inept or he was, surprise, surprise, just saying shit to please people, which is basically his business platform.
I don't think you should be giving up on the ineptitude line, Joel.
Yeah, I know. Don't discount sort of incompetence.
Yeah. If it comes to a matter of corruption or ineptitude, yeah, generally ineptitude is the way it goes.
The latter is the popular one. So while it would be reasonable to assume that cookers have a general pedos a bad outlook on things, and this might very well be one of those things where they deviate from their oppositional defiant disorder and actually accept the fact that government's doing a good thing, no, we actually forget that, remembering that while they are obsessed with pedophilia and pedos, they're only really interested in elite pedos. Basically, pedos they disagree with politically. You know, American Democrats, people in the
Pizzagate.
judiciary,
Pizzagate pedos.
You know, like comic book pedos, not actual pedophilia. That's fine. It's sad because, of course, you know, look, let's face it, they gave the Catholic Church a free kick for the last few years.
Yeah.
Not hearing much about that. Surprise, surprise,
Well,
because
all
well,
of those institutions
godfathers.
who were guilty, you know,
Yep.
the Scouts, the
Australian
Australian
Swimming Australia,
yeah,
just
all-
free
all of
kicks
those
all over the
mobs.
field because they had no political bent, and these people are just fucking useful idiots for a right wing agenda. Anyway, so in October, X was fined $610,500 due to a failure to adequately respond to questions about how they detect and remove CSA on the platform. So that's the general thing, which is like they've gone, okay, what are you fucking doing? And Twitter's like, oh, I don't know, man. And she's like, you fired your fucking public safety team, you gronk. What have you done? What have you done? They're like, oh,
Well,
I don't know.
apparently they sent out a series of forms, and
Yeah.
many of the questions went unanswered.
Just left blank. Just incredible. Look at the fucking hubris on these assholes. Now, to be fair, as much as we do like to shit on Elon Musk and X because it is fun, Google are also in hot water for a very similar thing. They were handed a warning for basically just not adequately responding to how child sex abuse material is being moderated on their platforms. Google, they are saying much more. As actually, I think the quote was mature things, but it still was inadequate. So she's not just going after Elon, but the other companies, which we'll go into later, they answer the questions adequately because this is a fucking child porn. So one thing to just get an idea of context is that Elon famously replaced his media team with an automated email response to a poop emoji. You would imagine that that would possibly have a part of this, although I believe the eSafety Commissioner was talking more with Elon's lawyers than the media team. Anyway, we ripped off some text from the AFR. Do you want to read that up?
Yes, the AFR reported in February, they say, Australia's eSafety Commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant, issued notices to Twitter, which later rebranded as X. God, I hate having to say that. Anyway,
I know, fuck him, right?
Google, TikTok, Twitch, and Discord. Ooh, what is that?
Yeah.
Giving the companies an initial 35 days to respond to her questions. After 7 months of back and forth, the Commissioner said X had failed to provide any response to some questions, leaving some sections entirely blank and providing incomplete or inaccurate responses to others. For example, the social media platform did not respond to questions about how long it takes to respond to reports of child sexual exploitation and the tools and technologies it uses to detect the material on its platforms and live streams. That's quite problematic for a $44 billion platform that still reaches hundreds of millions of people when we're talking about the most egregious illegal content of child sexual abuse materials. The latter was a quote from Ms. Inman-Grant.
Now, for the sake of balance, I find it very difficult to disagree with anything there except for this. $44 billion is what fuckhead McJokestein paid for it. Its actual valuation is something around 19 billion. And yes, the dates line up.
Therein lies his genius, John.
Isn't it good?
Therein lies his genius. To turn, last year he lost $200 billion.
And you know what? That was mostly because he would rather post than be successful.
Yeah.
Posting is one of the most dangerous drugs. Well, I think he's actually really getting wet in ketamine as well. But ketamine and posting are two very dangerous things you should not combine.
Don't do it at home, kids.
Yeah, so like, look, the valuation I'm talking about was based on apparently bonuses given to employees. So it might be more or less than that. He may be undervaluing it to try and somehow shaft the employees. I don't know. Either way, one can basically say that since this was before Elon started agreeing with the Great Replacement Theory, telling Disney and other sponsors to go fuck themselves, I would say $19 billion is actually quite generous.
I would tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
Look, it really has dropped off. They can talk about participation rates being higher, and I suspect there are people from, let's say, Asia who are using Twitter that weren't a few years ago. But in terms of its utility as a social media platform, it really has disintegrated. There's just a shitload of bots all through the place that they don't seem to be terribly interested in
There's
removing.
just so many Nazis
Yeah, and then there is
Like
this,
actual
this
Nazis.
really extreme element that turns up there.
It's just weird, and they're all blue checks, and it's all just annoying. Anyway, so... Oh, my nose sucks. High pollen count, guys. High pollen count. So, basically, Miss Inman Grant, the eSafety Commissioner, she actually worked at Twitter from 2014 to 2016, and she has been dealing with the single public policy employee in the region who is based in Singapore. And apparently ex-Australian lawyers and the company's trust and safety chain in San Francisco, which I assume is bigger than one fucking person. I'm guessing lawyers, plural, implies...
that'd be three
X has
people.
more
And
than
one lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one lawyer, but it's like a Gareth Rogers type who's there just like, fucking just do what I say, judge, because like otherwise like I'll just do your job for you. Anyway, that's badly paraphrased, but Gareth Rogers basically...
he doesn't actually talk like that.
I don't actually know what he sounds like, but I know he's certainly just got dressed down by I think it was VCAT. Anyway, so X had 28 days to pay the $610,500 penalty, and this was basically, a fine issued because they were naughty, right? So if Twitter chooses not to pay the infringement notice, then the commission can then escalate the matter to court, which has the power to penalise the platform up to $780,000 for each day they're out of compliance. So
it's a hefty whack.
It is. So X, of course, in the infinite wisdom, have not paid the fine, nor complied, and now they are indeed taking the matter to court. And let's face it, $780,000 a day is not pocket change, even for the richest man in the world. And also, let's face it, enforcing the debt may be very difficult. I would love it if they literally turned off Twitter in Australia due to an outstanding debt. That would be incredible.
Cancelled. They'd be cancelled, Joe.
I say fuck them. And I love the fact that everyone's going to squirm, because if the modern conservative right can be against the eSafety Commissioner for cracking down on child sex and abuse material and grooming on the platform, imagine if they shut down Twitter over the fines. It's just incredible. It's like, well, at the end of the day, like your favorite play toy using children as a political play tool has now bitten you on the ass, and I don't know what you're going to do about it. Although that being said, they don't really care about reality. They just say stuff. I've had a lot of Twitter arguments this afternoon on this matter, and it was fascinating how much they've dug their heels in. And basically, this is an example of censorship. And I just cannot stress this enough. Censoring child porn isn't a bad thing. I cannot stress this enough. So,
yeah, it is one of those areas that we talk about in censorship, because there has to be a sense of regulation about certain materials.
There has to be a line. There has to be a line. I think child porn is way past the line. But if the line's going to start somewhere, if you want to be like a free speech absolutist, I don't think that you can. I don't think you have to substitute that word.
It is
for that
the
line.
answer. It is the answer too. And Musk calls himself a free speech absolutist. It is the answer. What about child pornography?
Yeah,
would you publish that?
And
because
I think
the platform essentially publishes what other people's content. Yeah. Are you going to just look the other way at that?
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So. This is a good quote from Imran Grant about why Twitter is being investigated, because it's not just child pornography, but also the active grooming of children for sexual exploitation.
That's another area. So when we talk about child exploitation material, that's one element of it. So it's not necessarily photos or videos. It is the way in which people can actually groom children online.
Yep. And
this is what Imran Grant said. What we are talking about here are serious crimes playing out in these platforms committed by, and notice platforms with an S, committed by predatory adults against innocent children, and the community expects every tech company to be taking meaningful action. They do. The community does expect that.
Yeah, community does. Yep, I'm cool with it. So, the whole thing has been stunning. Like, it's insane to think these sort of okay groomer types who protest libraries and yell at fucking buildings, basically flipping out about drag queens reading stories to children. Their whole shtick is fictitious elite pedophiles. And they are genuinely upset by the idea of a government organization doing what they want, which is reducing the ability for pedos to access children and child sex exploitation material. So we're going to talk about the fucking idiots who are opposing this, but it's just broken my brain. You know, you get to a certain point where you expect something and then something different happens. Sometimes that shock is so strong that you just kind of lose time.
Well,
So-
they just simp for Musk. I mean,
They
he's
do,
their
but, like,
hero.
over
He's their
pedos?
little libertarian hero.
But over pedophiles.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. You can simp for
I don't think
Musk.
there's a limit, Joel. I honestly don't
There
think
can't
there's
be.
a limit to the simping from Elon Musk by
That's what's been
people
proven.
like the ones you're going to mention right now.
Well, let's talk about fucking Ruction, because this is one of the more subtle ones, but it was shared around a lot because, I mean, he's just, you know, Ruction, right? He's just fucking window dressing. So he posted a very down-the-line tweet, making the most of his $15 infinite character limit with this fucking boring account of the court case. Rambling, not very interesting. Fuck, I get why Twitter has a fucking character count limit. Because just the shit that comes out when you can just type nonsense is just fucking horrid. Anyway, he did have a little extra editorial flair, couldn't help himself, and it said, breaking, Elon Musk responds, and then it had the gif of Elon saying, go fuck yourself for that recent New York Times interview. With a big GFY. So basically it's that thing of, like, you know, Elon rebelling against the government, showing them who's boss, and generally speaking, he's taken the side of Elon. That's cool, because Elon's side is pedos. Good. Okay, cool. So glad we established that.
Yeah, well, you know, pro-pedophilia. It's an interesting philosophy to adopt.
It's a hill I didn't expect people to die on. Anyway, so Topher Field, who we all know is an idiot, buys himself awards for his stupid movie. Just a blowhard. I don't know what his purpose in life is, but he likes being a libertarian, and I don't know, he's just a bit of a prick. But he went after a good friend of the podcast, Emily Webb, because he's just an asshole. She did call him out, to be fair, and his ego is very fragile. So he quote tweeted her and rambled this with his expensive fucking character limit.
Show me one time when you called out child exploitation on Twitter pre-Musk. Hypocrite. It was prolific, known, and protected by the previous owners, but you didn't care then, did you? I would have to ask the same question of Topher. If you were aware of prolific, known, and protected child sexual exploitation material, and you didn't say or do anything about it, gee, you're on the verge of committing a crime right there. But I'll go on. This is the tweet. This is more of the tweet. And it's getting boring already. You only care, in inverted commas for some reason, now because it's useful to your side, which is also in inverted commas. The same reason the eSafety Commissioner is calling it out on X, but not on other far worse platforms that he's a member of. Telegram, all that sort of stuff. None of you give a rat's about the children. They are a prop for your moral grandstanding, expendable ammunition in your battle for attention. God, he really does go on. Fact is, and he's actually at Elon Musk here, just to simp just that little bit more, has done more than previous Twitter owners. How do you know this? And their blue-haired staff to fight the issue. How could you possibly know that?
He doesn't.
But he also doesn't bow to petty bureaucrats. God, you're a simp. God, you're a suck. You're an absolute sycophant. Do I have to go on with this, Joe?
Yes, you do.
No one you tagged is defending child exploitation, and you know it. But you have no moral compass, and you're willing to exploit the suffering of children for cheap likes from strangers on the internet. So stunning and brave.
Yeah, I know. He's just such a fucking flog. I mean, like, look, let's, say there are a million culture war moments in that. Like, the blue
drooling
hair thing.
sycophant you are, Field.
Oh, it's fucking
Really?
pathetic. I mean, like, and this is an interesting thing. I was listening to Knowledge Fight and they had Tucker Carlson on there, and he will just slip in culture war things really quickly to basically make sure that everyone's on side. Like, he used the idea that that Ukraine is not a democracy as like a simile to something completely unrelated, but he's just slipping in culture war things to make sure that everyone's there going, yeah, fucking Ukraine, fucking dodgy dictatorship, taking money from fucking Biden. Like, that's great. It takes you a second to do. It's quite subliminal. So he's doing a very similar thing, I would say by coincidence and not by design, but look, it is what it is. It's pretty embarrassing that this is his take. He's really digging down on it. One of the things that I think is interesting, and, like you said, like, if you are aware of this thing, well, in reality, before this happened and before Elon Musk took over, they had a public safety office. And we'll go into the extent of that later because it actually worked in conjunction with other organizations, government funded, NGOs, all that sort of stuff. That's all over now. That's all been cut by Elon. And Elon's basically said, we're going to use AI, but just hasn't used AI. So one thing that I want to say for starters here is that Emily isn't the regulator. So getting up her for not having taken action is a little bit silly. Now, I get it. If you're aware of this sort of thing, you haven't taken action. That is, it's an issue. But also, we do rely on others to do this for us because that's what regulators and things are there for. And I'm happy that they're there doing these jobs because I can't do everything at once. But now the regulator has stepped in, that's a good thing. Unless you're Topher Field and you think it's a bad thing that the regulator stepped in to prevent child porn and grooming.
Let's just go back just a little bit. I mean, when we're talking about child sexual exploitation material, child pornography, if you like, if you want to simplify it a little bit, who else but a regulator is going to oversee that?
Cops, maybe.
You can't do this any other way than have a regulator. You need to have someone there who has legislative instruments. When was the eSafety Commissioner created?
I'm not sure. I think it was maybe 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, it's a fairly recent.
I think it's pretty recent. One thing that I just do want to jump in here, and I did have extensive conversations about this on Twitter with a conspiracy theorist and just like a right-wing flog. And the conspiracy theorist made a really good point, which is that there is a layer of defense to the grooming and the child sex exploitation material on Twitter that doesn't involve government and doesn't involve censorship and doesn't involve regulators and doesn't involve a witch hunt on Elon Musk. And that is the parents. And we should respect that. The parents are going to fix everything. So just abolish the eSafety Commissioner. Don't worry about it. Cyberbullying, exploitation, scams, they're all a thing of the past. The parents are going to fix it. I'm really glad we had that chat. It's going to save us so much bother and so much money.
What an idiot. What an idiot.
Like, just an idiot. And like, I just find that simplified worldview so stunning where you just be like, but the parents will fix it. And you're like, okay, so what are the parents doing now? Oh, but they're being held back.
We'll get to the parents fairly soon too in regard to RFK and this idea that parents can choose vaccines, whether their children are vaccinated or not.
Yes, unfortunately, parents don't always make the right choices. Concept.
We'll talk a little bit more about that. Go on, Joel.
Well, I mean, Topher Field's a fucking parent. I'm not giving him any fucking leeway to fix a problem. So look, the fact that he brought up blue-haired staff just shows me that this guy is not mature enough to have any kind of platform whatsoever. But look, free speech, fine, you do your thing. But one thing that he says in that, which I really fucking loved, is, quote, "None of you give a rat's about the children. They're a prop for your moral grandstanding, expendable ammunition in your battle for attention." And that is an excellent sentence if Topher is describing himself and his entire freedom movement. Sums them up. They don't give a rat's about the children. They are simply a prop for their moral grandstanding and their expendable ammunition in their battle for attention. If they cared about kids, they would want to see a crackdown on child sex exploitation material. They do not, because it's all about partisan grandstanding and not about the actual safety of children, especially considering the fact that it's not even just about child porn material, but it's also about active grooming of children being targeted by adults on the platform. You don't care about it because if you did, you would support this, even if you supported it in a very, qualified way and say, look, I don't trust government, but I think this is a good intention. I don't trust the eSafety Commissioner, but I think this could, be done well if done well, blah, blah, blah. Or I wish government didn't have to do this, blah, blah, blah. But you're just against this regulation measure, which is just...
As I say, they're just simping for Trump. Oh, sorry, simping for Musk.
Two sides of the same coin.
They'll simp for Trump next year. But
it's the
they're
same
simping
cult.
for Musk. It's actually... It's really appalling. They're fucking acolytes, unpaid acolytes. They ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, there's not even like sort of Soros checks for them. Like the Bob Mercer checks go to people who matter, like, sort of the Ben Shapiros and the Tucker Carlson. Not flogs like Topher. He just does it for sort of weird self-satisfaction. Anyway, I guess, you could say the same for us. We don't get paid shit all. Thank you, patrons. But, at the same time, we still do it out of interest and satisfaction. But I just feel like we're on the right side of history. I guess he does too. Yeah, there you go. Culture wars, right? So Alexander Marshall, Idiot. Said it was extortion. Idiot. I don't want to say a whole tweet. Idiot. Kobe Thatcher.
She is just idiot's actually not big enough a word.
Yeah, just a weird, and her sort of like kiddie-like thing where she's like an adult when she wants to be like a child in the next sort of moment is weird to sort of obfuscate. It's almost like the sort of like mid-20s or early 30s Greta Thunberg. It's just fucking weird. I don't like it. Her shtick is creepy as shit. Kobe Thatcher, weird, upset, don't care. She said it was
Whinging.
another...
Yeah,
whinging.
she was actually complaining that people were whinging about this or whining about this. And Kobe Thatcher's whole social media presence is just a long whinge whine about things she doesn't like.